Hey guys, Bipolar Barbie here. Now, I wanted to do some videos on my most frequently asked questions, and one of them is what is each mental illness that I am diagnosed with. And I think it's really important to speak about our mental illnesses specifically, so that people know what it is we are talking about. Because my pet hate is people generalizing mental illness as this umbrella, when really it is just a term to describe many different forms of mental disorders that affect people in all sorts of different ways for different reasons. There's different causes, and there is certainly different treatments and different effects on your life. So bipolar disorder. What is bipolar disorder? Bipolar disorder is a chronic mental health condition. So it is something that once diagnosed with bipolar disorder, you will always have bipolar disorder. It is a malfunctioning of the brain. It is a biological mental illness. It has strong genetic traits, so it can be very hereditary. Whether or not it skips a generation or not is really determined to a bunch of different factors. Some people, their bipolar disorder will be triggered by a very traumatic experience. Others who are just basically going to get it anyway, it tends to kind of happen in their early 20s, late teens, when their brain is fully developed. Now, bipolar disorder will cause extreme mood swings, strong changes in not just mood, but energy level, and subsequently your thoughts and behaviors, which I think is what people really don't understand. The reason bipolar disorder is so destructive is because of the behaviors that the illness can actually cause, which can be really harmful to a person themselves, but also, I guess, family members, and every aspect of their life. It will really heavily impact. And bipolar disorder is really, it's more prevalent than people think it is. 1 in 50 people are diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So when you think about it, that is actually a really common statistic. Like, everyone knows at least 50 people in their life, and there's a chance that one of them have bipolar disorder. So the fact that people don't understand it, they don't know what it is, and they don't talk about it is really quite scary. Now, I guess people who have bipolar disorder will know about the sort of 2 extremes: the depressive episodes and the manic or hypomanic episodes, which categorize sort of bipolar. You have to have had experience 1 depressive episode and at least 1 manic episode to really qualify for bipolar disorder. And a lot of people are initially diagnosed with depression until they have a manic episode. And there is no other mental disorder that has a manic episode. So that is what makes bipolar specific. It used to be called manic depression because it was depression with mania. Now, bipolar depression, I guess, is recognized by, normal kind of regular depression symptoms: low mood, feelings of hopelessness, extreme sadness, lack of interest in, pleasurable activities, all of those sorts of normal things that you would recognize as someone who has depression. Mania is really what people don't understand. And I normally explain it to people this way, and it was really funny. Someone said to me the other day, they said exactly the same way that I would explain it. They said, I don't really know, I've never been manic, I don't know what mania is about, but I assume it's the same as being off your face on cocaine. And I went, you know what? That is how I describe it. That is the only human experience that I could compare it to. And it is very accurate. In the sense that you're not necessarily sort of like high or disorientated, even though bipolar 1 will experience psychotic episodes, and it definitely influences your mind. But that state of euphoria, that excess energy and motivation and that kind of that happiness, I know being manic is like the benders that I have had on coke. So you will have extremely high mood, and this is not just being happy, like this is being on another planet. I guess like my activity level will soar. Like I don't need to sleep. It's just I am awake. That, I guess, sounds like it could be a great thing. But when you start to get the agitation and the racing thoughts, and really intense, quick speech, and I guess, you know, eventually not sleeping will cause serious deliria and problems. So mania can be very, very destructive. People who are depressed often say to me, oh, well, you're lucky. At least you get a break with the manic episodes. No. Constantly switching between the both is very, very exhausting and very, very destructive. And people who are manic, despite how happy, well, I guess elated they can be in their mood, can actually be the most suicidal in general, because they are very reactive. And once it gets to that point where you're losing your mind, like literally, then all of a sudden you just want to make it stop. I've been on the floor crying and screaming, please make it stop. Stop these thoughts. I've been beating my head against brick walls just because I wanted it all to stop. So we think that is a really high risk category for people. And you can argue whether or not, you know, mental illness is all in your head, whether it's biological. You know what? If it's all in your head, you are right. Your brain is in your head, and that is the control center for your entire body. So it is going to radiate throughout your body. If your brain is the machine that, you know, controls your entire being, then if that is broken down, if there are parts missing, then your machine's not going to be running properly. Your body is not going to function properly. Your mind isn't going to function properly. You are just not going to be able to go through life. And that is why I choose to medicate bipolar disorder. There are some people that claim to be able to treat bipolar disorder without medication, but honestly, I'm really skeptical on that. I have no doubt that they probably don't take medication, but I think it's just one of those things where it's like, what is your definition of effectively treating? You might be living with it, but, you know, for me, recovery is about my mental illness having the least amount of impact on my life in a really negative and detrimental way. I want to be the best version of myself, and overcoming my bipolar is really the way to do that. People say that medication has a lot of side effects and things like that, but in short, my brain was broken to begin with. I need to fix that before I can be in a position where I can be using my brain effectively to overcome everything else that is going on in my life. And MRI scans have actually shown the differences in functioning capacity in a bipolar brain. And it is crazy. You compare it to like a normal brain, and then you compare a depressed brain and a manic brain. Your depressed brain is not functioning. It's not like it's at 10% functioning capacity. There are sections of your brain that are not working. Your brain is actually slower. It's like a computer when you get that really crappy loading sign. That's what is going on in people's brains. So it really is a serious issue. And then when you're manic, for example, your brain is firing on all cylinders. Every part of your brain is like fully engaged, and it's on fire. The trouble is, it's not sustainable to have that level of functioning. Like every little cell and neuron in your brain will get burnt out functioning for that long. It is not designed to be switched on like that. It's like turning up the power. And I guess you don't have control over these mood swings because your brain is always over and undercompensating. So all of a sudden you're like full noise and then the volume's down, and it's just constantly switching between the two. And, you know, people can try and argue that that's not a real thing, but you know what, it is. There's plenty of studies out there. I'm not going to argue with you, but they've actually shown the same brain deterioration in bipolar patients that they have in Alzheimer's patients. So the longer bipolar disorder is untreated, you're actually killing brain cells. You are damaging your brain because it's not functioning correctly. And you know, if a machine's not functioning correctly, it's not, you know, going to do the job that it needs to be doing. And that job is to keep us alive. So these sort of mood swings, you know, it's not just like, people often say, oh, she's bipolar because she's just constantly a moody bitch. No, like they will last for at least weeks, if not months, sometimes even years. Like these episodes are so long, very, very long, of the same constant mood, and then you will experience some sudden switch. I think what people don't understand, and where a lot of stigma comes with bipolar disorder, is it's not that you can only function at each extreme. You do have normal periods, and that's why they call it a manic episode or a depressive episode, because you still kind of have you and your baseline, but you will go to either one of these extremes for a period of time. You might not necessarily switch back to the other extreme. You could go back to a normal level of functioning for a little while, and then suddenly, you know, you're going to the next level. So there are periods in my life where I can function like a normal person, even before I started seeking treatment. But the reason that I sought treatment is because it lessens the length of these episodes, it lessens the intensity of them, and it lessens the frequency of them, which means I get to spend more of my life being me, not influenced by an illness. Now, the symptoms of, I guess, bipolar disorder are really important to discuss. And when you are talking about symptoms, you need to break it down into those two categories. What is the symptom of a manic episode, and what is the symptom of a depressive episode? So your manic symptoms, which is probably what a lot of people won't be familiar with, and that is this just incredibly euphoric mood. It is insane. It is out of this world. You will also experience things that are kind of a bit embarrassing looking back, but these delusions of self-importance, like you were absolutely invincible. You know, mania kind of adds this little bit of a narcissistic aspect to my personality, which is really something that I don't like. It changes who I am. It really does make me a different version of myself. Like then I suddenly become manic Barbie, and manic Barbie can be glorious. I mean, she's a bitch, but she shines bright like a diamond. Like people are always attracted to that confidence, that you know, just that resolve, that happiness, you know. Manic Barbie's the life of the party. Until the party finally comes to an end, which is sad. But when I am manic, I am insanely creative. And I think that is where they get this link between creativity and bipolar disorder. You were thinking very differently. And I think for me, the reason I'm most creative when I'm manic is it's like letting go of your like inhibitions. I'm not afraid of things not being good enough, because I've just got this confidence, like, you know what, every idea I have is amazing. So I'm going to do it, and I'm going to be confident in what I do, and I'm not going to be second guessing it. And because I've got an endless amount of energy and endless amount of hours in the day, like 24 hours a day, you know, I can just achieve so much. But at the same time, I might not necessarily have a good attention span at the time. I'll be easily distracted. I've probably got like 20 different projects going on at the same time. And not getting enough sleep can be really bad as well. After a while, you will want sleep. You'll be craving sleep. I mean, you know what it's like to not sleep for like a few days, even just like 2 or 3 days. Your eyes get sore. Like your eyes are so dry because every time you blink, it lubricates your eyes. And you have that rest period overnight where your eyes are closed, so they get that chance to rest, reabsorb with all the fluids and everything. But that is one thing that people would not kind of think about. That is a really bad symptom, because then you just get, like, your eyes are so sore, and that causes a lot of physical pain. And I mean, the excess energy, you can't get rid of it. You can't run from it. So it's like, I will just stop and I would do like 1,000 jumping jacks just on the spot. I'll start squatting. I'll start like running. I'll start running like 4 hours a day. I'll go to the gym twice a day for 2 hours each time. Like, I will be so physically active. The only thing that will make me stop is when I physically cannot move anymore. And that is so damaging to your body. It's exhausting, but you will not feel the exhaustion until after the episode. Now, I always lose a ton of weight when I'm manic. I mean, I'm like a thin person anyway, but having that much extra energy and being so much more physically active, you are going to start dropping that weight. It's kind of impossible not to. One thing I know about being manic is I also have like zero appetite because I don't need to eat. My stomach, like if I actually force myself to eat, I actually find I will get so sick. It's like my stomach has just shrunk and I just can't put anything in there. Like, food tastes like dirt. One thing I have found though is that things like protein, things like carbs, I really struggle to get into my body. But a fun tip for everyone out there, because you need to eat. Even if when you're manic you don't need to eat, it's like, no, you need to eat. So I've found really watery like vegetables and fruits are the best way to go to make sure I'm getting some form of nutrients into my body. For some reason, my body will accept that rather than like any other type of food. So give that a go, guys, if you do struggle with the not being able to eat when you're manic. Like, that is a telltale, I guess, symptom. It's also really hard in a social situation. People are inviting you out for dinner, they're inviting you out for lunch, and when you're thin like me, people start to think that you're anorexic. It's like, no, I don't have an eating disorder, I just can't eat right now. And people will force you to eat. And they don't understand the physical pain that you will literally be in, or the fact that you just can't eat. The same way that you can't sleep. It's not a choice that you're making, it's just, this is what settings my body are on now. And I can't change them. I'm not in control of the settings in my mind. Bipolar is in control. Bipolar mania has taken control. And I guess on that note of socially awkward, like, the thoughts are running through your head so quickly. And at first it's great because you got idea after idea after idea. And then all of a sudden, they are coming so fast, it just becomes this ball of wool and you can't distinguish one thought from another. And it's like this full head explosion. And if your thoughts are coming so fast, you're going to start talking really fast. And I talk really fast anyway. But you will find that you will start to like talk over people. People won't be able to keep up with you. People will start being like, what the hell is wrong with you? You're bouncing around like are you on the crack again? No, I'm not. I'm just manic. I mean, I'm being kicked out of so many pubs and clubs completely sober just because I'm manic. I mean, my eyes, my pupils will even change, and I will literally have all these symptoms. Like, it would look like I have taken some form of illicit substance, but I haven't. My brain is just flooded with dopamine and serotonin, and I am on a natural high that I think people who take drugs could only dream of. But what a lot of people will probably know if they have experienced something similar, that you get very irritable. It's really easy to irritate a manic person. We are impatient. We can get very aggressive and not realize how aggressive we are because our emotion kind of center is turned on. Our empathy center of our brain is kind of like being dialed down a little bit. There's no brakes. Like, the reasoning section of our brain has again been turned off. There's no stop sign. There's no kind of social cues. It's just, we're going for it. And that's it. And it really can frustrate other people, especially people who don't understand, and they just kind of think it's you being a very rude person, which is what makes being like manic really hard to work, really hard to hold a job and function in society. Especially if you're communicating to customers. I mean, even imagine if you were at a desk job, and I've been at a desk job before, and I am so manic, I can't sit down. I can't work. And it's like, I'm just pacing around. I'm like, go, go, go. I'm tapping stuff. I'm like drumming on the tables because I can't focus and I can't pay attention to whatever is going on. So I think that is, that's not my choice that's a really hard situation. It's really frustrating, and I've lost a lot of jobs because of it. It's not because I don't want to work. It's like I am incapable of not working. Sometimes I even have to keep myself housebound because I am so untrustworthy. I've been kicked out of Woolworths because I was cartwheeling down the supermarket aisles. Like, I was so high on life, I was literally dancing and doing gymnastics, cartwheels, handstands, like backflips, everything in the car park. And I luckily had enough insight to say to my housemate at the time, like, please get me home, because I am about to go like full scale crazy right now. I mean, I've jumped out of moving cars. I've done a lot of really crazy stuff, manic, stuff that I would not ever do in my right mind, but I'm not in my right mind. Everything seems like a great idea when you are manic. You have these grandiose schemes and plans, and it's like, I am going to achieve that. You know what? I'm going to build a rocket, and I'm going to go to the moon. I'm going to visit every single country in the world. Where's my credit card? I'm just going to spend all of this money, because guess what? When you're manic, there's no consequences. Or that's what your brain keeps telling you. It's not alerting you to the consequences of your actions. And that heartbreaking reality when you come down from a manic episode and you're hit with those consequences can be really, it is overwhelming. It crushes you. It's like, not just are you exhausted after the episode, not just have you just suddenly gone through the biggest mindfuck of your life, but it's like you have to deal with the embarrassment and the realizations of the things that you did under the influence of mania. And this is where I guess where the Bipolar Barbie came into it as well, because when I'm manic, I dress completely different. I'm happy, I'm confident, I dress sexy, I dress colorfully. I want to really express myself. People will definitely engage in risk-taking behaviors, inappropriate sexual activity, so impulsive and poor life choices, excessive spending, business ventures, basically committing yourselves to things that might be achievable when you're manic, but it would not be achievable for the normal person to be able to keep up with the amount of things, the ideas and projects that you start. So these unrealistic plans, again, they're just going to get you into trouble when you have to admit at some point that you can't keep up with them. And people with bipolar 1, that's the difference between bipolar 1 and 2. Bipolar 2 doesn't have psychotic episodes. Bipolar 1 does. There are studies that show now that people with bipolar 2, they experience more of a hypomania, which is a less intense form of mania, but they will experience more severe depression. And people with bipolar 1 will experience higher mania with the psychotic episodes, losing touch with reality. But their depression might not be as severe. So it's interesting. I actually find the people that, bipolar 2 seems to have like a slightly higher IQ when I look at people that I know that have been diagnosed with it. And that's where this idea of low latent inhibition comes from, that causes things like autism and schizophrenia. I believe that bipolar is on that level, and I would like to do more research that in my life, because there hasn't been a lot of research on that topic. And I think that bipolar 2 is probably more on that scale of high IQ with low latent inhibition than, say, bipolar 1 and schizophrenia, autism. The lower your IQ with low latent inhibition, the more it is going to affect you, the more your brain is going to freeze and, have things like psychosis. So yeah, watch my videos on low latent inhibition if you have bipolar, because I think it will explain a lot. Now, bipolar depression is really similar to like any other form of depression. Hopelessness, sadness, loss of interest in pleasurable activities or anything really, withdrawal from family and friends, sleeping problems, normally oversleeping, which is what I do, loss of energy, feelings of just being completely exhausted, physically slowing down, really, really low self-esteem, feelings of guilt, problems concentrating, suicidal thoughts. Honestly, it's like the complete opposite to mania. So they really are the two. Now, as I was saying before, I guess with the bipolar 1 and the bipolar 2, I have bipolar 2. So I have never been psychotic. I have never completely lost touch with reality, even though I've been like on that cusp. But The other aspect of a sort of mania, a more intense, severe mania, would be those delusions with false, irrational, illogical beliefs, and the hallucinations, hearing things, seeing things, sensing things that might be there but aren't real. I mean, I think we all kind of have an idea what psychosis is and what hallucinations are. I think the only thing that's important to remember with that is that it is real to these people. You can't just say something like, oh, your imaginary friend's not there, just like get over it. Seriously, you know, to them, they're actually seeing that. And I have had moments which have probably come somewhat close to that, where everything is suddenly jumping out at me. I'm so hypersensitive to the world around me. All of a sudden it's like, oh my God, that chair just moved. Oh my God, like that light in the ceiling. And it's like everything is jumping out of me because my brain is not computing how far away it is from me, and things are registering at different times because my brain is all skewed. And that was terrifying. That was terrifying enough. I could not imagine completely experiencing a psychotic episode. And I think the hardest bit about that would be not being able to trust yourself. I mean, when I'm manic, I can't trust myself. I can't trust myself in general when it comes to my moods, because I never really know what is influencing my decisions. Is this me, or is it some aspect of my illness? And I have gotten better at that. But I imagine that would be even harder if your brain was telling you that things were real when they weren't. So it's really important to take psychosis seriously, because if someone is living in a different reality, then that can be very, very dangerous to themselves. So please keep that in mind, guys. Most people, I guess, as well, when they're hallucinating, they'll be hearing things. So there'll be voices in their heads. They'll always be looking over their shoulder, whether it be the sound of footsteps, a single voice, multiple voices. They can call a person's name. They can compel them to do things. They'll comment on what a person is doing. And yeah, it can really be pretty tough, guys. So that's bipolar disorder, quite easily explained. I'm going to do another. So if you like this video, guys, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Let me know your experiences and your thoughts in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe. Check out some of my other videos that I might have mentioned in this one. And just remember that everyone's experience with mental illness is different. Everyone with bipolar disorder might experience different variations of the symptoms that I have gone through today. So this is just kind of the generalization, but everyone is very different. So thanks, guys. Thanks for watching.